I had a croissant that morning. It was so simple, so good. We had taken the high-speed train from London the night before. I was studying theater there for a couple of months. We'd been given a 4-day weekend off from school. I'd been there once before when I was 16, but I can't even tell you how excited I was to be there as an adult. We're having some beers. We're going to the opera tomorrow night. Oh, so last night we walked down the Champs-Élysées to find a place to eat, and Elizabeth, being our fluent French speaker, so she likes to think, orders for us. Clearly we did not review our restaurant lingo enough because we get the bill, and it's like 24 euros just in water, and I was like, shit. We went straight to the French-English dictionary to figure out how to order tap water for next time. It wasn't very clear. We just left the Louvre. We're sitting at this outdoor cafe. I forgot what it felt like to be in this romantic, beautiful city. I can't stop watching people. We're heading back to the hotel. It's been a long day, and my friend Ashley, a PhD grad, is pregnant and exhausted. We get back to the hotel, but it's only 8 o'clock in summertime. It'll be light up for a couple of hours, so I'm heading out to find a cute little Parisian cafe to sit and write in my journal. I round the corner from our hotel and pass a Pizza Hut. Not exactly what I was looking for. Thought I left those back in the Midwest. There aren't any classic cafes. I mean, in most neighborhoods, they're practically on every corner. I round the corner to head back to our hotel when our eyes meet. Skin so dark, this warm smile. At the Café Au Deux, scanning the menu, unable to order. It's right across from the Palais de Justice. Its huge golden iron gates are in my view. My contact at the embassy told us to be here at 8:30, and in un-Johnson-like fashion, my mom and I are actually on time. My mom orders what we would later learn to be an $8 glass of orange juice. It's early, but all I want is a beer. I'm so anxious, I can barely swallow. A beer, Sarah? Really? Not really an option, so I instead order coffee and chain smoke in a Parisian-like fashion. Natalie's here, my lawyer. My lawyer has on overalls with heels. She's such a Parisian, super thin, fucked up teeth, smokes a lot. I haven't seen her since the last trial. I haven't heard from her in over a year and a half. I kind of want to punch her in the face. I finally had to get the embassy involved again. For one, my life has been on hold for the last 2 years, not doing so many things because I had to save money. You have to have money. The court didn't have to give me any lengths of a heads up, and you have to have money to be able to leave for Paris at the drop of a hat. I mean, who can leave for Paris at the drop of a hat? But even more than that, the metaphorical pause, the not setting up shop, not hoping, not praying, not dreaming of this future thing that isn't just out of my grasp, but is non-existent. I really want to punch her in the face. She pulls her crumpled court robe from her bag, hides the overalls. She has just enough heel. I'm so relieved that she's here. I decide to give her a hug instead. We cross the street, a security line. She flashes her ID, a long hallway. I'm walking behind Natalie, my mom behind me. I'm falling behind. Where's Natalie? The military police stop me. I stutter. I don't know what to say, and even if I did, I don't fucking speak French. Natalie reappears. Natalie says, "Les victimes." The 4 of them immediately step back and bow their heads. 1 step, 2 steps in the courtroom. It's all it takes. Our eyes meet. Standing in the doorway, this warm smile. He welcomes me inside this tiny, narrow cafe. It's cozy and neighborhoody. There's a handful of people. Everyone seems to know one another. We walk to the bar. He orders me a beer. Clink go the glasses in that bright smile. Within minutes, we're laughing. My French vocabulary consists of saying hello, thank you, and ordering a sandwich. His English vocabulary consists of smiling. In true charades fashion, I ask if anyone in the bar speaks English, and he calls over one of his friends. For the next hour, we speak in broken English about our countries and cultures. They from Morocco talk about their families back home, their religion. I am fascinated by them and their openness to this girl from Nebraska. They show me how to, their old music on this traditional jukebox, and they dance. We talk more. They show me how to write my name in Arabic. He's attractive, but I'm not attracted. They suggest we go to another cafe that has great music and more dancing. It's just a couple blocks away. I remember waiting for someone to treat me like I didn't matter, that I made it up, did something to deserve it, that I was just some stupid American girl. I remember I couldn't shake the feeling of his eyes, sitting inside that glass cage next to guards dressed in all black with guns. The jury's just been selected. It's not like in America where they sit off to the right, but they're all lined up in front of me. Madam President is in the middle, flanked by two lower-ranking judges, with the jurors continuing off on both sides. The people's lawyer, court reporter, door, two guards, guns, door, guns, his cousin, podium, my mom, with his lawyer in front of him and closed. We're in the middle. Me, Natalie, my translator. After opening statements that I can't understand, different police and detectives are called to testify, none of them familiar. The last one was Stefan. I remember the day after it happened. I was in the police station all day, and he was so kind to me, so patient. I was still in shock, had only had 2 hours of sleep. I was so upset and frustrated. I couldn't get the timeline of the night down. I estimated that we were at the first bar for a couple of hours, maybe, when we hadn't even been there for one. We figured it out by the timestamp on my camera. And I said to Stefan, I swear I wasn't drunk, I swear. He looked at me so sincerely and said, I don't care if you were drunk. This never should have happened to you. He believed me from the beginning. He's finished testifying. He's turning to walk towards the back of the room, and unlike everyone else, he actually looks at me. He's looking me in the eye and offering a half smile. It seems so simple, but it reminds me what I've set out to do. We get there, and as we dance, I can tell he likes me, the more muscular one, and he tries to kiss me. It wasn't aggressive, I just don't like him, so I let him kiss me on the cheek. At some point, I start to feel tension between them, that his friend can communicate with me and he can't. After a little while, his wingman comes to me, tells me that his friend likes me, and asks if I want to have sex with him. I laugh it off. No, it's definitely time to head back. I'm about to catch a cab, and they both insist, absolutely not, you're only a couple blocks away. They start to walk me back to the hotel, but within minutes, they're arguing. I don't know what they're saying. I have no idea why they're fighting. Everything has been great this whole night. His friend starts to walk away. The one I can actually communicate with, I know now that something is wrong. I don't utter a word, I just plead with my eyes for him not to leave. He does. We start walking again, and he puts his arm around me. I don't want it there. I don't want him to touch me. In the pit of my stomach, I know. I'm frozen. Just be patient. Don't make him angry. Wait for someone to be on the sidewalk. I remember the street lamps were weak, their glow not spreading far. All of the buildings were residential, maybe 5 or 6 floors, some with businesses on the ground floor, all of them closed. There were a few lights on here and there, some with window boxes from them, a few vines dangling down. If we can just get back to the hotel, I can get rid of him there. There will be people in the lobby, someone will be at the front desk, I just have to make it back to the hotel. There's a couple walking towards us a block ahead. They're entering an apartment building. Somehow we just slip in behind them. He still has his arm around me, and he just pulls me in. We've coming back from a short recess, Mom and I, and we see that they've merged the security line for Saint-Chapelle, a famous church in the courtyard of the Palais de Justice, with the security line for the courthouse. Now this is kind of fucked up. Why do I have to wait behind a tourist from Indiana and a family from Brazil so that I can get to my fucking courtroom? I see a lawyer flash his ID. Excusez-moi, parlez-vous anglais? I explain to him that I'm a victim in a trial that is about to start. Would he please explain that to the military police to let me go to the head of the line? He tries, it's not working. Out of nowhere, this large man steps up and asks if he can try. Sure. He begins arguing with the security guard, but it doesn't work either. He comes to me, asks me if I know who he is. No. Are you sure you don't recognize me? No, I'm sorry, should I? He says, I'm the man that saved you. I'm the man that chased him away, wrapped you in a blanket, and held you until the police came. This man, this large, red-headed teddy bear of a man. We hug. I cry. My mother thanks him for saving her daughter. Heavy wooden doors that close too soon. The couple disappears out of sight. I can't make sound to call out. Up around the spiraled staircase they climb. It winds its way around my head. The first step I stand on, looking down at him, looking up at me. I kiss him to appease. Second kiss out of fear. Planning my escape with or without him. The hotel lobby, my savior. I just have to make it back. It's so close, yet so... Visions of pain, clawing, scrambling on the ground like an insect. My head hits the wood of the stairs that I first stood on again and again. Forced against the door that a man tried to open, tried to reach me, tried to save. Up, up, up. Above me, they disbelieve. They hear me, they think it is a cat. They hear me, they fall asleep. They wake their husbands. They stand at their door, ears pressed against. 20 wretched minutes pass as they fall asleep. They wake again, they fall asleep. They wake again, they fall asleep. They wake again. They open their doors. They open their hearts and found me. They look down the opening of the stairs, spiral down to the floor. On the floor, I scream, I hit, I bite, I draw blood. His tongue or penis, I don't remember. Biting, screaming, praying. My mind is taken over to save me. My brain says I'm not here. I am here. He is raping me. I am strong. I can't stop him. I am strong. I can't stop him. The man chased him away. He took off his shoes to escape faster. The man came back to hold me, half unclothed, half departed, half unknown. He is holding me. The police and my face detectives asking me questions. Merci, merci, merci. I speak in the only French I know of. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So hysterical, lying in a puddle of my own urine, wrapped in a pink comforter with triangles of design. The man's embrace, my salvation. After the ambulance, after the hospital, after the exams, after the rape kit, after the emergency contraceptives, after the HIV prevention medication, after the new clothes, after the crap food I couldn't ingest, after the police station, after him, I return to the hotel. My friends cry with me, hold me, I hang on for dear life. Life taken away, life stolen, life distorted, life. I say, I'm glad this happened to me. I know I can handle it. Who says something like that? Hope that it's true. Slept for 2 hours with my arms in the air, stumbled to the bathroom to discover claw marks down my thighs, scratches on my face, his blood on my arms. At the police station for 10 hours, I identify his underwear and mine, establishing timelines, establishing they believe me. In my camera, I have this picture. In my journal, I have his address. In this room, I am respected. In this room, I am treated humanely. I'm not blamed or questioned. Thankful to be in this room. Thankful to not be in America. The next day, with detectives, I retraced my steps. Found the second bar. Unsure, exhausted, pain. I couldn't decide I was in the right place. Seeing the fake roses next to the cash register, I knew. something so small, it all came back. Running to the curb, trying to escape, trying not to vomit, trying not to cry, trying to escape, trying not to vomit, trying not to cry, trying to escape, trying not to vomit, trying to hold on. Heavy wooden doors that closed too soon. The couple disappears out of sight. I can't make sound, call out. I lost myself, but discovered a fight and found a scream I never knew I had. It really sucks. Dating in New York City. Oh, it's the most amazing city in the world, the Big Apple. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it is really great, but it really sucks to date. Well, it sucks to date, period, but it really sucks in New York. All the men are either too cool, taken, or gay. Or a combination of all three. And being in the restaurant industry, you're only meeting people late at night in bars who have crazy schedules and hold crazy hours and are just plain crazy because, like you, they're in the restaurant industry. So I've been debating whether to start internet dating. A couple of friends are doing it, and even though they haven't found the one, they're having fun doing it, and I'm really broke and could use the free meals. Think though. Think about how our conversation would go. They ask all the basic questions. Where were you born? Where did you go to school? What do you do for a living? And I don't want to just say that I'm a waitress and that I sell really expensive cheese, so I casually mention that I do educational work, public speaking, and they say, oh, what do you educate on? And I say, oh, you know, violence against women. And then most are not dumb enough to ask, so how did you get into that? But even if they don't ask that last question, where does the conversation really go from there? So the first truck, the one before the one that my mom and I went to, back in 2005, 7 months after it happened, I found out that I had to see a court psychologist to determine my psychological wounds. I thought to myself, if these are the people that are going to determine how much money I get, you can be guaranteed I'm going to say some crazy ass shit. So I started coming up with all these different voices and personas, and for some reason they all talked a lot about my vagina. My vagina died! I slashed it out like I was a little girl in Africa. It's buried back in that sleazy hotel room. It's in a cemetery on some Parisian avenue. It's dead. My vagina is dead. Was that a coping mechanism? I scooped it out. My insides like a melon. I scraped out my seeds. Okay, wait. This is one of my favorites. It is like black darkness, seething in a yellow hole. No life will ever come from it again. My vagina is like a holocaust, bald with fleas, never to be fed again. So while we're on the topic of my vagina, it's performance art, so we have to say the word vagina a lot. Vagina! That was weak. You really think I'm gonna let you get away with that? 1, 2, 3. Vagina! Yeah. My vagina was like a CSI crime scene. I wondered if they could get fingerprints off my ovaries. A week after I was raped, I got my period. I had the worst cramps I've ever had in my career as a woman. So, I also had to take HIV prevention medication. I had to eat 3,000 calories to combat the 12 horse pills I had to take every day. And shocker, I gained 20 pounds from it, and I'm still a little bitter about it. But am I a quitter? No, I'm not. I just kept on going. 30 more pounds. Grand total, 50 pounds! Oh! Yeah. So my friend Cheney from Louisiana, where I was going to school at the time, came with me for this first trial, this grand jury hearing. My mom was really relieved about this, and he told her, we've got so many Cajuns praying for us, it's like Jesus has taken us there himself. So for the first day, Janie and I went to my lawyer's office. This poor woman can't find the English to describe what the witnesses saw. Proceeds to stand up, placing a delicate hand on her desk, and begins humping the air. Mission accomplished. The second day, I had to go to the judge's chambers with my lawyer and my translator to go all over his police statements and my police statements. You could really tell we here blurred up. So the third day was this dreaded court psychologist. Now I'm picturing this cold, heartless old man who's going to question me and my actions, and he's asking me if I have seen any doctors, what if any therapy I'm receiving. Well, I tell him I've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, that I'm on anti-anxiety medication, antidepressant, and sleeping pills. I'm going to both group therapy and individual therapy, and he asks me if he can stop the official session to offer me his advice. He tells me that I have to be proud of doing this work and that I have to keep going. I have to keep doing this work. I have to put this devil in a box so that I can get my life back. So the final day is what they call a confrontation. Now, the judge thought that she was doing me a favor by having it be in her chambers and not a courtroom. Well, what this meant was judge, huge desk, court reporter, huge desk, his lawyer, him, his translator, my lawyer, my translator, me. Well, he's turned face to face with his translator almost the whole time, so it's like I had to look at him for an entire day. So at the end of a very long day, the judge asked me to speak, and I said I didn't want to. I didn't want to become emotional. It was the one thing that I promised myself, that I would not cry in front of him. I had to run out and throw up in the bathroom, but no crying. She asked me to speak again. I said, I take this very seriously because I know what his life will be like now. The judge was taken aback and said, well, what about your life? My life has all been but put on hold. What was supposed to be the most amazing summer of my life was in an instant destroyed. Now, realize I could have said anything I wanted. I could have said, I hope you get ass raped in prison, anything, but I didn't. It was my way of reaching out to him, my way of trying to get a response from him that would somehow make sense as to what happened to me. His reply was this: I have no feelings, I have no guilt, I have nothing to feel sorry for. October 20th, 2006. "28 months and 4 days after it happened, my mom told me that after each witness testified, they walked to where she was sitting and hugged her, each one of them. How did they even know who she was? I remember witness after witness testifying to the horrors of that night, how some were woken to what they thought was their cat playing or someone on the street. They'd fall asleep and wake again to realize it was something happening outside their doors in their building. In any type of crime, there's rarely a witness. In this type of crime, a witness is unheard of. Many victims never tell a soul. Some tell a friend or go to therapy, few go to the police, and rarely is there enough evidence to go to trial. It is a case of he said, she said, a case of he vanishes, and so too does her spirit. One of the former residents had since moved to Canada, had no responsibility in the trial, and yet of his own free will wrote a letter to the court. My angel described with such emotion what this man was doing to me, that I in no way wanted this, that no matter what the defense said, this was not a misunderstanding, that I screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Sometimes I still hear that scream ringing in my ears. How blessed I was to have all of these witnesses. How beautiful that they held my mother. Why am I alone? Why am I drawn, pulled, magnetized towards bad choices? Why did this happen to me? Why can't I get over it? Why am I making a career on the worst day of my life? Why do I end the day in tears? Why do I hate myself? Why at this point do I not have the strength inside to do what is best for me? It is shameful I still conduct myself in this way. This is not who I was supposed to become. After all of these years, I think I'm starting to grieve. Innocence lost, time evaporated, evidence used, depression reigning, alcohol absorbing, stripped of my dignity. This is not who I was supposed to become. To grieve for my vagina, for my thighs, my face, my arms all scratched, clawed, and battered, for my skin, blood splatters absorbed into, for my vagina. A place that for me is meant for enjoyment, for intimacy and orgasms, for love and for birth. My vagina that became a receptacle for violence, a piece of my body that received his pain, his anger and injustice, his behavior compensating for his lack of power. How will I ever know why my body endured what it did? How will I ever know why he did this to me? If only it ended with my vagina, my spirit, my mind, my heart raped. My hope, my future, my time, and my bank account raped. His cowardice became my cowardice, his pain, my pain. Are we almost the same? Angry and unable to endure was given to us without choice. This is not who I was supposed to become. I hate that. I hate that he knows. I hate that he knows more. I hate that he knows more about. I hate that he knows more about what. I hate that he knows more about what happened. I hate that he knows more about what happened to. I hate that he knows more about what happened to my. I hate that he knows more about what happened to my body. I hate that he knows more about what happened to my body than I do. It's time to testify. Here I stand at the podium in the center of it all, begging myself not to cry, staring at the ceiling in the hopes it will tell me how to do this. That fucking defense lawyer trying to show the jury how gentle and generically understanding he is. It's okay. Take your time. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Wouldn't you like that? But here I am, trying to untangle my tongue, to reject his line of questioning, to describe in detail what he did to make their stomachs turn, to spit on his pathetic reasoning that I let him kiss me, that in his culture meant that I wanted to have sex with him. Since when does a dance and a kiss on the cheek consent to sex? I want to scream at them, all 12 of them plus those fucking alternates. You don't understand. You don't know what he did and what he continues to do. I think my mom listened through the doors. I told her before we even left New York that she was not allowed to be in the courtroom for my testimony. She did not see the bruises and claw marks. I will not have her hear the violence that happened on top of the obvious violation. We take a break. We smoke a lot. People's lawyer makes his closing statement. My lawyer does the same. Madam President asks if I have anything that I want to say to the court, and in true Johnson-like fashion, I ask for more time. She didn't really like that. I am asking my lawyer if there's anything I should say, anything I need to make sure I don't leave out. It's a vortex, the translation's going back and forth. And finally, he's speaking. Through my translator, he understands now the horror of his crime. Let's ignore the brilliant coaching that he's probably received from his lawyer and pray that this is for real. He understands. Through my translator, he asks for my forgiveness. I shudder at this relay. My message to the court is translated. I say, it does not matter how long he will be in jail, for 2 lives have been destroyed.
Peu importe pour combien de temps il restera en prison, 2 vies ont été détruites.
The past 2 years of my life have been destroyed.
Les derniers 2 ans de ma vie ont été détruites.
Coming here today, I never imagined that he would admit his crime, understand the horror, and ask for my forgiveness.
En venant ici aujourd'hui, je n'aurais jamais imaginé qu'il mettrait son camp, qu'il comprendrait l'erreur, qu'il demanderait pardon.
I look at him. I say I forgive you as well.
Je vous pardonne aussi.
He does not look at me but says, merci. So does his lawyer. I sit, I break in half, I shake, I sob. Finally, I remember my translator summarizing his lawyer's closing statements, that I was unique, that I was a different kind of victim. I remember staring at my translator as his lawyer accredited me with the courage to forgive. I just wish I could have said then that it wasn't for him. We walked to the cafe where we began yesterday morning. I asked my mom to go for a walk. I can't have her staring at me for 2 hours while the jury is out. I sit with my journal. My writing is interrupted by the return of my lawyer. We sip Diet Coke together from glass bottles, speak in our broken conversation with our broken languages. My mom returns, we head back to the court. I sit in the lobby and read my murder mystery and try and choke down a Luna bar. I remember his lawyer approaching me, telling me that he hoped that this would give me the closure that I deserve, that I'm strong and he hopes that I can now move on. I remember him trying to justify a kiss on the cheek as a consent to sex, and I kind of want to punch him in the face. Natalie tells me he's actually a good lawyer, a good man, that in the Parisian system he could have just as easily been my lawyer. I'm trying to care. It's been 3 hours and the jury is back. There's this aggressive buzzer that signals that Madam President is about to enter the court. I can't wait to never hear it again. I could just strangle my translator. There is so much talking and so little translation. Finally, he leans in. He's been sentenced to 5 years in jail. He's already served 2. Following his sentence, he will be banished from France. Back to Morocco he goes. I did not come here for revenge, but I don't know if this is enough. Too short of a sentence, and it means I wasn't raped badly enough. Too long of a sentence, and I struggle with the life of this man. There's still one more decision to come. For victims, they merge both the civil and criminal trials so that they do not have to endure 2 separate trials. The civil damages that Madam President awards me is 25,000 euros. He may not have received a stiff sentence, but the money signifies that the judge holds the gravity of the act. The people's lawyer is quite upset at his brief sentence, asks if I want to go for longer. We can go to trial again.
We are finishing packing here. It is approximately 3:22 Eastern Standard Time. My mother, Eva Overgard Johnson, is standing in my kitchen with her new scarf that she bought in Soho, right outside of Dean and DeLuca. She's thinking she's all hip and stuff. Here we go, Paris. Watch out, motherfuckers. Approximately 5:10, and my mother and I just rolled all the way out of her face after we paid $12.97 for 2 waters, a bag of chips, and some shortbread. I think she has a few things to say.
I have nothing to say. And parents, we've had a nap. We're ready to roll. Get her done. Get her done. You're hurt for the bitch.
I don't know why I just call her mother a bitch. I meant to say lady something. But I got no more.
So good when you like this.
She thinks I'm good when I'm like this.
So
AKA funny. But the thing is, only my mother thinks I'm funny. You hear her laughing. You hear her. But it is true. We're sitting here in the also known as Rue Flatters.
in the 5th arrondissement.
Arrondissement. Right next to our little Quartier Latin, aka the Latin Quarter, Tashishi Fufu Papa Wanna Be in the House Hotel. And the cheap glass of red wine she asked specifically for in English. I would like a glass of red wine, and she made sure to highlight the red just to make sure he understood her English. And then she said, "Oh, but just a cheap one, not expensive." That's what she got. But it's worked around, and I like it. She got the French look, but he was nice. He nodded and smiled. He could have flipped her off. Let's go have some freedom fries.
Oh my goodness.
And this is for all who wore a short skirt, for all who were escorted home and ended up, for all who wore a lot of makeup, for all who drank too much and ended up, for all who kissed, who danced, who flirted, who went farther than they were comfortable with, trying to fit in, trying to be grown up, trying to explore, and ended up taken advantage of, tossed aside, used, and forgotten. And this is for you, and this is for me, and this is for her. This is for you, and this is for me. And this is for all who didn't have enough evidence, for all who weren't believed, for all who didn't have a witness, for all who thought they would forever be alone, for all whose families didn't support them. And this is for you, and this is for me. I must believe that no one is beyond repair. I must believe that no matter what you have done, you are not broken. I cannot say if everyone deserves forgiveness, for that is for the individual to decide when they are ready to forgive, for it is just as big an act for the forgiver as it is for the forgiven. I must believe that you are not beyond repair. I must believe you are not broken. I pray that your time was enough. I must believe. Sarah Jane here with your post-trial multi-year summary report. So, my lawyer fucked me. The year 2006. After all that struggle through the criminal trial, the judge granted me the money. Natalie Natalie told me that she asked for 50,000 euros in the hopes that I might get 6,000 or 7,000. I saw some of her lawyer friends that evening. They told me they had never heard of a similar case or victim receiving so much money, and she fucked me. All she had to do was apply for the monies once it was proven he didn't have it. And she didn't do the paperwork. She didn't return my calls or my emails, and she didn't give the embassy enough information. 2007, I'm connected with a pro bono Parisian lawyer living in New York. She is appalled at Natalie's behavior and promises to make it right. After 2 months of meetings, she disappears. 2008, I'm connected with a woman from Boston who was also assaulted in Paris and who will be prosecuting her rapist abroad. I begin conversations with her lawyer about the monies. She tells me that it's too late to start now because it's been 3 years since the facts and 1 year from the final judgment, Article 706-5 du Code de Procedure Pénale. But according on the circumstances, you could ask for them to make an exception, which is a possibility also provided by the law. She states in an email. This is what she basically says. Ain't no way in hell you are going to get your monies. But you have nothing to lose. Except, of course, the fees you will pay me. I do retain her with money I don't have to complete the civil trial. I email her that I know that the chances are small, but it's no longer about the money. I'm almost more angry at my old lawyer than my rapist, and I need this to be finished. Imagine life as a long hallway with doors on both sides, and behind those doors are rooms that keep you from walking down this hall, keeping you from the path that you were meant to follow. In these rooms, these rooms are filled with ego, self-indulgence, self-hatred, alcohol, addiction, pain. I have bounced from room to room so long, rarely in my heart, rarely peaceful, rarely on the path. Inaction or in pain or unable to feel the pain. In these rooms, I drink. I drink to numb. I drink to kill. I drink to sedate. I drink to escape. I drink to poison. I fall into the bathroom trying to sit on the toilet. I drink. It's like listening to a friend who's going through a bad breakup. They keep saying the same things over and over again, and after a while you do anything to get them to shut up. And that's what it's like listening to myself. And I'll do anything to make it stop. So I drink. I'll do anything to be quiet. So I drink. In these rooms, it's gray and overcast. In these rooms, I disturb myself sometimes. In these rooms, I didn't like myself. It lasted for so long, I didn't remember what there was to like, to love, to cherish, to take care of, to stand waiting for the approaching subway and thinking about jumping, knowing that you would never do it, but hating the fact that these were even thoughts, taking up space in your mind, wondering how you have reduced yourself to nothing. No matter how much your family loves you, no matter how much tough love comes your way or rude awakening slaps in the face, just one day you wake up and you realize that it's possible. Not quite that anything is possible, but that you can get to the other side of this. And when you believe it, even if it lasts just for a moment, it is like coming out of hibernation. It is like awakening from a coma. And instead of your friends and family standing around your bedside, it's you. Finally seeing yourself, finally seeing the world and that colors exist, and finally seeing yourself in this colorful world. But this moment doesn't last forever. It isn't magic and it isn't a drug, though for a moment it feels almost as good. Damn, there's work involved. But here's the brilliant thing. When again you start to slide down that slippery slope, you panic because you know what lies ahead and you know how long you'll be there. So you start to claw your way out. And every time you stumble, you don't fall so far. But here's the tricky thing. That slippery slope you know well. It's comfortable and dark. It's lonely and familiar. It's gray and overcast, and it feels like home. It happens again where just for a moment, you catch a glimmer of how colorful the world is, of how bright the top of the mountain is, and you start to do the work. All I want is tape monster has been a ridiculous amount of paperwork and many more courtroom appearances manned by Martine, my new beast of a lawyer. But now it's time for me. I go back to Paris with my best friend Kevin. I am doing my best to renew and reclaim the city I want to love, but it is an emotional hijacking. Poor guy, I have cried in the airport, on the airplane, and at every restaurant we have eaten since we have arrived. Thank God I'm buying. I return to the Palais de Justice. I pass through its golden gates to a new courtroom I go. I meet Martine. She kind of looks like Janet Reno. She's serious. I trust her. We smoke together. We enter together. The people's lawyer, who according to Martine should almost always be on the side of the victim, is cruel, keeps testing me. She asked what my degree was in. I made sure I didn't say acting, said theater. She asked what I do now. I'm a waitress. She asked me why I'm not in my field. I say because I struggled with depression for a long time after. I didn't have the confidence to pursue my career. She keeps pushing and pushing, rolling her eyes, challenging me for the why. Because I lost my life. Madam President leans back and surveys the room. Spring 2010, we received a letter. They are willing to settle 20,000 euros. I take it. Fall 2010, it's like it's a really main joke. I mean, it's never gonna happen. Just send me a fucking check already. Winter 2011, kind of a not very funny joke. Spring 2011, the wire just came in. I call friends and family like it's the announcement of my firstborn child. Life is calling. Anybody want this chair? I'm serious. I'm moving to Alaska. Who wants it? So I got it at Salvation Army in Woodside. I painted it myself. I don't have bed bugs. Okay. Blue chair. Whoever wants this chair and takes this chair is getting about half 24-ounce Miller Lite and a roll of painter's tape, which can also be worn as a bracelet. I'm really serious. Who wants it?
I'll take it.
Yeah, you will. For the lady. Have a sip, big boy. So, I was with my friend the other day, and I was wearing these black knee-high boots, and he was like, I like your boots. And I was like, thanks, I got raped. And he looked at me like I was a crazy person. I mean, he looked at me like I was severely disturbed, and I was like, what? I got raped. I got money for being raped, so I bought some boots. I mean, they were on sale, but I got some boots. They're my rape boots. I got into a lot of debt because I was raped. I got out of a lot of debt because I was raped. I started a retirement fund because I was raped. I got fancy underwear. I got a really good haircut and a really awesome coffee. I mean, you have no idea. I was so broke. So, I had a friend, and trust me, there are not many people like that I can joke around like this with, but we were talking about the then possible settlement, and he said, you know, one day you're gonna look back. You're gonna just bought a car or something, and you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, man, I'm so glad I got raped. Too soon. I mean, as much of a taboo as rape is, I feel like I have to apologize when I talk about it sincerely. I have to admit that it feels really good to make it into a joke, to desensitize it, but it's a balance. How many times have I been pissed off at someone using it casually? Oh man, that Tess raped me, or my friend who tells the story about how his bike got stripped, how they took his tires and all that remained was the frame, and he was like, man, I got there and my poor bike had been raped. So maybe I'm a total fucking hypocrite. And some might not get my sense of humor, but I gotta make a joke out of being raped. Just one more thing. I'm kind of nervous to tell you this one more thing. I'm afraid what you might think of me might change. I'm afraid what you would say when my own mother's best friend says, "When will these girls learn?" So my senior year in high school, I went to visit my friend in college, and we went to this party, and we ran into this guy who was a cousin of someone from my hometown. And that summer we had made out, and I had a huge crush. So I run into him at this party, and we go back to his fraternity. We're hanging out in the parking lot. I'm sitting on the gate of his truck, listening to the radio. It was the night that Princess Diana died. I remember so clearly hearing the report on the radio. And we go back to his room and we start making out, and he wants to go further, and I say, no, I'm a virgin. And he keeps pushing. I say no, he keeps pushing. I start pushing. It happens. I say no. Looking over and behind me, out the window at the moon, my companion, until it was over. I didn't tell anyone for a long time. Stayed quiet. And what was then guilt so strong it confused me to what actually happened. I had made a promise to myself that I was going to graduate from high school and turn 18 before I had sex. I wasn't a prude. I had been drunk in a cornfield. I had given a blowjob in a back seat. But I made a promise to myself, and I had the right to be able to keep that promise. So it came up with a group of girls in the dorm, my freshman year of college. Someone told what happened to them, so did I. But outside of these small moments, it stayed inside. So I've done the silent thing before. When I was sitting on that high-speed train back to London, painfully ill from the HIV medication, I promised myself that I would never be silent again. And now you know why. I've done the silent thing before. So if this whole internet dating thing goes as planned, I'm wondering what the specific amount of dates conducted are appropriate for the big reveal. I'm not talking about sliding into home plate there, people, but when to tell the person what happened. I mean, when I educationally tell hundreds of strangers a year what happened, it's kind of awkward to not have that conversation with the person that you were dating. And honestly, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel safe until they know. I'm not afraid of sex. I'm afraid of violence, but I'm not afraid of sex. I actually really like sex when it's safe. But unfortunately, I've been triggered. Like many other rape survivors, I have been triggered on the sidewalk. I've been triggered by an ambulance going by. I've been triggered by a man walking towards me and I have to cross to the other side of the street. And I've been triggered during sex. And what is so unfortunate, in addition to the fact that it's extremely awkward and embarrassing, is that it doesn't have anything to do with sex. Rape is not sex, it's violence. Well, anyways, I'm 31 now. The whole clock is ticking thing is sort of starting to happen. And in addition to my baggage, if you will, I'm getting pickier. I'm getting more set in my ways, and I just pray that I can find someone who can hold my story, who can know how important this work is to me without defining me by it or feeling constricted by it themselves. Over the past 7 years, I haven't always been on my game. I've scared off a lot of people. Off a lot of people. The event alone is a barrier enough without adding to the choices that I've made. Don't get me wrong, I'm proud of where I've come from. I'm proud of the work that I've done, the journey back, but I can't help but think sometimes, who would I be now? Who would love me now if this hadn't happened to me? For so long I have been not Sarah Jane, but victim, survivor, caught in constant turmoil. After all these years of waiting for the trial, waiting for myself, I will not wait any longer. Here's what I have learned and what I'm still learning, is how to fully own me now, at whatever point of the journey I am on, who I am at this instant, not who I was, not who I want to be, but me. full of me, all of me, me at the ebb and flow of expressing myself sexually, me at 160 pounds, me, with no excuses, to be relied upon again, to love and be loved again, to hope again, to dream, to create, to be inspired again. I'm in front of you now. I'm here with you all now. And for now, that's good enough for me.
These two wonderful women. This is, and I'll introduce.
Hi. Hi.
Sit. Hi, I'm Kathleen Cogswell, and I'm with the New York City Alliance Against Sexual Assault. And our mission is to stop the violence through advocacy, through technical assistance, and also we run the largest training institute for doctors and nurses to become sexual assault forensic examiners. So we feel that it's so important to have people in emergency rooms who are trained so that when a survivor comes in, they know exactly what to do. And these two amazing women next to me, this is Rita Abadi, and Rita is a rape crisis professional with Mount Sinai Savvy, and that's the sexual assault and violence intervention program. And this is Monica Calmo, and Monica is also a rape crisis professional, and she's with St. Luke's Roosevelt Crime Victims Treatment Center. And they are both, this is so interesting because when I spoke to both of them about being part of the panel, Rita said that so many of her clients are immigrants, so they face what you faced in America, not having the language. But I'm not going to speak for you. And Monica also has worked in the legal system, so I thought they both were perfect.
My goodness. I don't know even where to start. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. I mean, do we just want to open up for questions, or do you want to start a platform? Anyone?
Are there any questions, or would you like Rita to talk about some of her experiences, and then Monica?
And start by
Sure,
talking
sure.
about it, and then when I first heard about the plan, I was like, oh, that's interesting because I am an immigrant to the U.S. That's one of the things. I end up working for Mount Sinai Savvy, but at the DA's office in Queens. So I'm dealing with the legal system full time in my day, and a lot of what I do, like I do basically psychotherapy. But a lot of the work has to do with supporting people throughout the criminal process system and helping them understand what's going on and what's going to happen next. Because it's very disempowering to be in any situation where you do not understand what is going on, what are your rights, what is going to happen next, and people tend not to explain it. And I'm just talking about the criminal justice system.
And all the other variables that are a part of that journey, that experience.
And a lot are foreigners, and I work mostly with the Hispanic population, and there is no equivalence to the systems. Each judicial system is different in each country. They are very particular, and I found it very interesting because I hear all the GA is explaining about grand jury that you mentioned, that is a very American concept. It doesn't exist in other legal systems. And they translated it to Spanish. I don't know if anyone speaks Spanish, but they translated as gran jurado. And I tried to explain to the GAs that doesn't have any meaning in Spanish, although you are literally translating the words. And so that's basically part of the work, and just to facilitate this process, because also legal is another language too.
Yes.
I have to say, just like in working with SJ on the, like 2 weeks ago when we started really looking at your script, when I would be like, I don't understand, what is this? And when she would begin explaining to me sort of just the obstacle first of encountering a completely different justice system and in another language, and then you would go into detail about like, well, I would take these letters that I would get in French to a waiter at a restaurant, a French waiter, to read them to me, and I was like, holy shit, and like, pieces of in the script, like, you explaining to me the people's lawyer and what that meant, and just kind of like unpacking that, and I think one of the things we tried to achieve the last few weeks is really bringing out the, like, that there was a constant translation happening, and the relay of time in between that, and her having to wait to receive information, and like, the language thing was just, I think really, and it just speaks to what you're saying, and it blows me away that is, something that you had to confront, something that people have to confront, and yeah.
It's a system that is supposed to be empowering for the survivor, and many times is not.
Yeah.
In France, you had your own lawyer that you could sit with there. Here, in the criminal justice system, our survivors don't. They are witnesses in the criminal process. So they're, for them, it's very personal. It's their life that was messed up. It's their life that was that crumbled in this horrible situation. But to New York City, to New York State, they're a witness in this case that they're putting together. So it really takes away the humanness of the survivor many times, and it is part of our job to help them remain human and remain connected with hope and with life.
And I think for the language affects that too, because there's sort of a lawyer speak, and then there's a translation, and there would be moments, I was terrified to meet Martine. I was like, she's kind of a bitch, like, and she was so serious, and then we went and had coffee afterwards, and she was this amazing, compassionate woman. But, Natalie, the first lawyer, was so interesting. I was like, don't you understand what I'm going through? And she's not concerned with where I'm at. I mean, of course, on one level, she was, but her job was not to be emotionally involved in this, so it's very hard. And I was so lucky to have a lawyer appointed to me. The first Natalie was appointed, so it was so wonderful to actually have a person, but also so disempowering, because you're like, don't you get it? It's such a struggle. And even more so for the U.S., it's even more desensitized, it's even more unhuman.
But one of the things that, you kept talking about that I think is so important is in this culture, in France, around the world, the victim blaming. And, we saw that in New York City with the Dominique Strauss-Kahn case. We saw it with the 2 police officers who went back to a young woman's apartment 4 times and were acquitted of rape. And we're constantly having to battle this because of social norms, because of these horrible stereotypes, as you said. if a woman has a drink, if she's dressed to be out in the evening and she's feeling attractive, it's used against her. And so we really need to, and this is why Sarah Jane's very courageous and brilliant performance is so important, because she's talking about it. And this is a crime that is the most underreported. Sexual violence, the most underreported crimes in America, because of the shame and the stigma and the fear that you won't be taken seriously. And certainly you two can.
There was a question.
Oh, I was just wondering, you said that for a victim in New York, that they're not, that they're a witness, that they're not they're not on like the prosecution side.
There's a
Or-
civil and criminal.
Is how their case is written up, the people against whoever is the perp.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
means that it's not me against him,
Mhm.
it's the people, like whoever is the prosecutor assigned to the case that represents the people,
Mhm.
because it's a criminal matter that relies on not on individual persons, but like their role is to put people in jail
Okay.
as prosecutors, so that the case is not personal.
So the city would
It's
represent it?
against the state, yeah, that's, and
The city represents the victim and they, okay.
yeah, and
Okay.
because this is the setup also, victims or survivors, they have limited saying on how the case is gonna be pursued. Because you were asked if you could come back to court. Here you don't have this ability.
Yeah.
The case is not in anyone, like it's on the prosecution's hands, 100%.
Well, the other question, Sarah, I had for you, which I should know the answer to, kidding, I know her very well, but I was just reminded of how many obstacles you went through for years, and we talk about translation and, you know, glossary of legal terms, and like that's kind of the surface. And what kept you going? Like, why didn't, were there like, I'm serious, like were there moments at least a dozen times where you're like, I could just forget this whole thing and go get a job doing something else, or, you know, move to a different city, or move, you know,
Yeah.
just what kept you went to Paris 3 times.
I mean, somewhere in there I made a decision to like follow through, but in a sense it wasn't. I mean, I just started receiving letters that had dates on them, and I had to figure out what they meant and if I had to show up or not. And that was the first, I was still in grad school. I mean, it was a rotation of time standing still and also just it going so fast, and then to be there for that first, I call it a grand jury hearing, but it's not technically. I mean, again, here we are, another lost in translation, but once that happened, I think it was just it was too much. I mean, it was like, you son of a bitch, you know, like, oh, you don't have any feelings. And I think at that part, at that point, I was just too in it. And I think I fought against my family as well, and it's kind of an awful thing to say because my family has supported me so profoundly, but they were the ones who were saying, let it go, put it behind you. Like, why are you gonna go back? Why are you putting yourself through this? Loss of work, you know, the depression, you know, like I was a hot mess for a long time. And I think that was just a small part of it. It's like, everybody thinks I can't do this, so I have to finish. Like I couldn't, there were so many question marks. I mean, I don't remember exactly what happened. It's such a blur. I mean, this is a very common thing with victims. Your mind shuts down to protect you. Our body is an amazing thing to sort of protect us from severe trauma, car accidents, you know, all kinds of trauma. So, oh God.
I just kept going.
I just kept going. I don't know. Thank you. I just kept going.
No was not an answer.
No is not an answer. Don't mess with me.
Can I add something, like, you know, rape is not the crime of sex, what you make brilliantly clear. it's of power control. And when survivors decide to go forward in the criminal justice system, is a way to bring back control over the process.
That's where I was going. Thank you.
I would also say, like, and how you've articulated stuff to me, like, there just kept being these moments where, like, the moment where, like, when you were walking in the courtroom and these men, these guards with guns, and your lawyer said, "La victime," and they bowed their heads, and, like, these moments where there was just this, like,
I just kept being
boosted, and
just, yeah.
and the witness turnout, and, like, the way that you described, they were all gathered together, like,
In the back of the room, each witness testified individually, of course, and they would hug my mom, which I had no idea because that was behind me, and they all stood together in the back of the room until that first day of the trial was over, and it was just like they were so invested. I was just some American girl. I mean, there were so many moments along the way where it was just like such gifts. And you know, I've been a part of a survivors group in New York for many years, and a few of the women have tried to prosecute. And I have so many. I think also to answer that, I know many women who have tried to prosecute, and have been rejected and treated like absolute shit by police, special victims unit. Mariska Hargitay, God bless your heart, she's got an incredible foundation, but it's not always like that. I mean, I know so many horror stories, and it's like, I have witnesses, I have evidence, how could I not finish when so many people don't have what I had? So.
Now, the Village Voice, I guess it was 2 years ago, did a whole investigation into how many sexual assaults are downgraded. And they begin by telling the survivor, well, you really don't have a strong enough case. And so, you know, that's another thing that...
And it re-victimizes them.
Yes,
often.
And
exactly.
majority of the cases that actually going through the criminal process, they are pled out. They don't go to trial. So everything stops.
And we could be here for 2 hours talking about how the media represents things, but it's like part of the taboo of it, part of it is the boogeyman jumping out of a dark alley at night, is how the things that we actually read about, the things that we're actually familiar with, are such unfortunate, horrendous cases that are mishandled and victim blaming. And I mean, we could go with Duke lacrosse team, for instance, but I mean, it's so frustrating to just wish that we talked about it more. And we don't have to be throwing out rape jokes, but you know.
And I think what you said almost at the end, which was you did the silence, it's so important for a lot of victims that choose to go through the criminal justice process, because they lose their voice. When they are being sexually assaulted, they don't have a voice. They lose all control and power of everything. So going through that, even just placing the police report, just being heard, that gives them their voice back. Even if at the end, the ADA's office says, sorry, we don't have anything to go with, they've done everything they can. They fought back. That's when they were able to fight back. And that can be very, very healing. It can also keep them stuck there, because I've worked with a lot of survivors who their goal is prosecution, is getting the guy convicted. And if that doesn't happen, that can be really, really damaging. So the healing process cannot be about conviction. It has to be about voice, and it has to be about you and what you want to get out of it. Because, like you said, no matter what the perpetrator gets, it's never going to be enough.
And it can keep you stuck for a long time. I mean, I've been asked before, you know, do you tell everybody to prosecute? It's like, no, I don't. It's a very individual decision, and it's not, it's just not always best, because it can keep someone in that victim state. It's hard to, if you don't get what you think you need from that, it's hard to, you can so easily be stuck there for a long time.
There's a hand.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Presumably, your rapist is out now, or I don't know if you were informed or not, but do you think that he, like, was it justice for you, or, I mean, how do you feel now, like maybe he's out living his life and you're still...
Then I still have to deal with
Yeah,
it.
that you're doing a one-woman show about it.
I missed it.
He's planning the same thing in Morocco.
Yeah, I mean, it was July 16th, 2004, so 2005 plus 4, 2009. I was living in Alaska, and I didn't have my family and my friends around me. And it was like a storm, like those pressure clouds. I mean, for a month, I didn't know when he was getting out, and I was kind of pissed about that. But because my first lawyer had screwed me, like information that I should have had, I didn't have. And it was like, here comes the anniversary, and who knows, he could have been out a year. He could have gotten out after 4 years. I mean, I have no idea. But I was very fixated on that date, about him getting out, and
that was before any of the
money.
stuff.
Yeah. So, you know, it sucks. I mean, it doesn't, like, he could get life in jail, and it wouldn't make me better, or I don't know, it's such a, what is justice? You know? I think justice for me is the fact that I'm, like, I wrote Baby Devil in a Box a really, really long time ago. And the fact that, like, I just got to do a workshop with one of my close friends who's incredibly talented, and then I get to, like, be in New York, and I'm on a panel right now, like, everything is crazy. Like, this is justice for me because I'm back. Will it always be a part of me? Yeah, absolutely. And,
So why now?
why now?
I should know the answer to that question.
My
But
producer,
what-
Carolyn Mann.
I mean, besides that it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, what is it about 2012?
What is about 2012?
What causes you, when did you decide, I'm in Homer, Alaska, this is happening, I'm coming back to New York? Did something change, or was it just time?
I finished like the second draft this summer while I was working 80 hours at this restaurant on this island in Alaska, and I had the opportunity to do this one night only thing. And then I got such great feedback, and it was like, that was great, but what a forgiving audience. I need help. And I had my settlement, and I couldn't touch it. Like, I had a really hard time spending any of it. And to me, like, part of it is blood money, and part of it is I've been broke for so long that I'm like depression era mindset. And I was like, this money has to be spent, and this money has to be used for this play. And I went back for the winter to Alaska, which I have never done, and kind of wrote but kind of couldn't. It was like a big piece of cement. And I fell in love, and I got really motivated. And I called Libby and was like, what do you think? Can we like try something? And she said yes, and then it was just like person after person showing up, the universe showing up, like it's just been crazy. Karin, who I did a documentary with a couple years ago, I was like, I want to like take it to festivals, and I need it to be filmed, and she was like, I'll be there. And Carolyn, some incredible producer, and she's like, yeah, my show is just ending, I can do that weekend. And it was just like bam, bam, bam. It's just amazing. It feels really, really good to be here. So. Fall in love, you get motivated. I don't know. So, yeah.
I just have a comment more than a question, but I wanted to share with you and with everybody that one of the things that I found so beautiful about your telling of this is the way that you really tap into the humanity of each moment, and the horrificness of what happened to you is never lost, and yet you find a way to really talk about what makes each of us real and human and struggle and still survive. And I think that it's so poignant in a way that goes beyond your story. It like fills your story with so much gravity and love and light, and yet also touches each person on a level that we can really relate to, whether or not we have experienced what you've experienced. And I think it's important for the work that it's doing, and it's important for sexual violence. And I think it's important for those of us who haven't experienced sexual violence, for that awareness, and also for the hope that you can instill in each of us to continue forward on our journeys. So I wanted to thank you for sharing that.
Well, I think that was a perfect wrap up. Thank you all so much. The Alliance, I did Baby Doll in a Box in Union Square Park for the Alliance years ago. I'm so passionate about what they do. Please spread the word, donate.
Come volunteer.
Come volunteer.
We need people.
I want to volunteer.
Oh, good.
And also,
Give me a number and I'll follow up.
and also to let people know that there are free services in the city.
Yes.
Yeah.
Free,
And
confidential.
Confidential, so it's important.
So like if something happens to somebody in this room or to our friends, like can we just call the Alliance and you'll help us, you'll hook us
Yes.
up and tell us what to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the programs, and we are listing
Absolutely.
their website.
Their
so
website is great, it really, there's some
Mhm.
place where it says get help and it lists all the programs and all the rape crisis programs, where they are for adolescent,
For
the
a-
numbers of the person, the website, the hours,
If-
everything.
What
Does the
languages
NYPD
are
tell people to
available.
call you? Does the NYPD tell people to call you when they make a
They
referral?
send people to
Yeah,
us.
they do direct referrals
Yeah.
to
They
the
do.
rape crisis programs.
We have a very close relationship
Mhm.
with the DA's offices and with Special Victims Unit, and you know, we try to make those relationships close and friendly. They're not always close and friendly because of the disparities between what they want and what we want. We always want the perpetrator to go to jail. That doesn't always happen, but you definitely should know that most of these services are free. And we see, like in my center, we see people that have a ton of money and we see people that don't. And we give the exact same service. We have bilingual, we have groups, we have legal advocacy, we have a ton of things. So check out the website.
And something we should mention, because it's what CBTC is so well known for, they have a male survivor program. And that's, you know, yes, women are obviously predominantly the victims, but quite a few men.
Yeah. And we do groups. I am actually starting an incest group for men in 2 weeks. And we do groups for men, we do individual for men, we do domestic violence, because men are also victims of domestic violence. So,
And we all have like advocate programs. They go into the emergency rooms and partake in for forensic examination, and they stay